I'm out here today at Believer's Joy Worship Center. That's what it's called today. Pastor's Lyle Shefferdeck Jr. Now, Lyle Shefferdeck is my uncle. He married my mother's sister, Beverly Jean Davidson, and he took over this church from my grandfather. Well, they're putting a new church building up, and it took them a long time to get started. I'll go into that in a few minutes. It took them a long time to get this project started, and it's finally come to fruition for them, and it's a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. Just looking at the foundation when I was here before, it didn't look like it was going to be that big of a building, but it's actually a pretty impressive building. Now, over here they've got a little area, and they call it Hallelujah Square Park. Y'all have to excuse the traffic. Back when I was a kid, there wasn't nobody come up and down this road. Now it's a major highway. But I remember back in probably 1978 or so, all this was woods out here. And they had my granddaddy had the pulpwooders come out here and pulpwood it out. And I spent, I don't know, a couple of months out here burning the remains of the pulpwood that went on and clearing that lot off over here. Like I say, this is actually quite an impressive building. Now, this steeple tower here, now they've got some metal on the bottom of it now, but that used to be wood down there where the metal is, and it sat on top of the old building that was here. And actually my cousin Ronnie Gleaton, if I'm not mistaken, actually built that steeple originally that went on top of the church. Now, I'm gonna walk inside. Nobody's here right now, but my grandfather started this church back in, I want to say it was April of 1964. Now, he started the church kind of on a wing and a prayer, so to speak, no pun intended. He was called to start a new church, and he started looking for a piece of property to put a building on. But in the meantime, we held services. Now, I was young at the time, probably about 6, 7 years old at the time, and we had church services at my grandfather's house. We had them in my living room where I grew up. We had them at my aunt and uncle's houses in one place or another. And at that time there was, I don't know, 15, maybe 20 people at best that started. My father was a deacon and my uncles were deacons. My father was the song director, I guess you'd call him. My Uncle Joe was the treasurer. But anyway, in April is when they started actually holding services. Now, my grandfather acquired this piece of land out here after a long search, and started building a little old building. Now the building that was originally here was, I don't know the exact dimensions, but it was a small building. It was a one-room church, and I'm going to say 24, 26 foot by maybe 30 feet. Wasn't very big at all. And that was built, Lord have mercy, my grandpa used to scrap lumber. My granddaddy never threw anything away that he thought he could use, and he had all kinds of scrap lumber. And boy, we nailed 2x4s together and one thing and another, and he poured a foundation out here and went up with it. And anyway, about 6 months or so later, in October, and I want to say it was 1964, we actually had the first service in the church out here. So they celebrate 2 anniversaries to the church out here. One for the actual forming of the church, and another for the actual building. Now, my grandfather, like I say, started this church, and after the original building was in place for a while, then he put one extension on, then he put another little extension on. And that's been, well, 60 years ago now. Well, over time, the front building had deteriorated somewhat. And I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit or whatever. Actually, my grandfather, like I say, he was the original pastor here. And my uncle got saved, Uncle Lyle got saved. He started coming to church out here, started preaching. And my grandfather retired, I think it was in 1978, he retired from the city, and he wanted to travel a lot, one thing and another. So he kind of turned the church over to my uncle and went into semi-retirement as far as the ministry went. He still preached along at different times here at the church. And but anyway, at that time, my Uncle Lyle took it over. Not long after that, they changed the name of the church. Now, originally it was Yellow Bluff Baptist Church, and they named it that because the road out in front here, or whatever, is Yellow Bluff Road here in Jacksonville, and this area was known as Yellow Bluff. And so, lack of a better name or whatever, they decided to name it Yellow Bluff Baptist Church. Well, when my uncle took it over, not long after that or whatever, they changed it to Yellow Bluff Believers Joy Church. Now, my grandfather was originally a Baptist preacher, and he was actually in on the ground floor of the Southern Baptist Convention. He knew all of the people that started the Southern Baptist Convention, and they would come here to Jacksonville, and they would always go to my grandparents' house. My grandmother was a very, very good cook, and they always made sure they went to Grandma and Grandpa's house to have dinner at least once, if not every time they ate when they was here. But my grandfather kind of pulled away from the Southern Baptist Convention because they come to him as a pastor and basically told him that he was going to have to preach their sermons. They would send him a pre-scripted sermon every week for him to preach. Well, he didn't believe in that. So he got away from the Southern Baptist Convention, and he kind of went, for lack of a better term, non-denominational. And I'll go over a lot more of this. In the near future, I'm going to start doing individual ancestors videos, and I'm going to talk about each one of them as a person, or some of them as a couple. Some I know more about than I do others. But anyway, he didn't believe in what the Southern Baptist Convention was doing. Now, he did use their material as far as Sunday school and stuff like that or whatever. He did use their books and one thing and another. But like I say, he was not into what they were doing exactly. So anyway, when my uncle took this church over, my grandfather was a old school Baptist style preacher, and he believed in the Bible, nothing else. What was in the Bible was gospel, and that was it. And he wasn't charismatic. In other words, you sang in church and you sang the old traditional hymns pretty much. You had a piano or an organ, and that was the music you had. And when my Uncle Lyle took it over, he took a more, I guess you'd call it, charismatic view. And he started bringing in a newer style to the church, I guess you might say. And like I say, he changed the name to Yellow Bluff Believers Joy. So as the church progressed even more, now he may correct me on some of this or whatever, I'm just kind of going on what I know or what I think I know. Anyway, now they've kind of gone, how should I put it, pro-Pentecostal. And that's kind of the way they lean now. But anyway, they tore the old church, front of the church building down, put the steeple out front, and it looks like they've got a light on it, and they've got a old bell on it. Well, I guess for about the past 10 years or so, they've been saving up and doing different things or whatever. I know they were selling tin cans or aluminum cans or whatever they could get on drives and one thing and another to get enough money together to do this church. Well, they about had everything done once they got all the architects and all the other things done with, which took forever. And of course, COVID hit. So during COVID, nobody was doing anything. So about a month or so ago, I guess, they finally started getting delivery on the materials to build the new church. Now, I have to say this is very impressive. When I first seen the concrete slab, it's hard when you're just looking at a concrete slab to really get the feel of what's going on. And it didn't look, in my estimation, to be this huge. And I had no idea it was going to be what's going to be a 2-story structure. But I have to say this is very impressive, and I like it. So I had been told that it was going up, and I hadn't been out in this particular part of Yellow Bluff Road in a while, and I had a couple of people ask me if I had seen the new building out here or whatever, and I said, no, I hadn't been out that way. So I was talking with somebody actually mentioned it to me, I guess it may have been yesterday or the day before. And I'd been going to come out here and go down to the cemetery for a minute. And cemetery's not far down the road, Eubank Cemetery, where my grandfather's buried. But I figured I'd come out here and do a little video on the building. And I talked to my mother this morning, and she was telling me, she was the one that, this was before I actually seen this structure. She told me about the two-story deal and all like that or whatever. Well, that made me even more curious about what was going on out here. And they actually hope, now I know the interior won't be finished by then, but they're hoping maybe to have the windows in. And they're going to try and hold a service here of some kind on Easter morning. And my mother wants me to be here, so I guess I will probably be here Easter morning. And who knows, I may even video the service. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But I can't get over the size and the scope of this building. I'm kind of at a loss for words. Now, the original church building, I'm trying to get my bearings here. The original church building started just about where that second drain pipe is, right there. And it went probably about to where that double door sat right there. And it was about that wide in the front. Like I say, it was a one-room building. Then, after that, they built a back portion here. And it come out just a little ways. And they actually put a men and women's bathroom in. Prior to that, we didn't even have a bathroom here at the church. But it had a little bathroom. Then later on they come and they expanded more and more. But then, like I say, the front part, they say, had gotten pretty bad. And they decided to tear it down and start saving to build the new church. I was sentimental about the old church building, and I kind of wish that they'd left that building there, maybe, or tried to leave it there and maybe put the newer building over here to the side somewhere or whatever. But I understand, and it is what it is. I guess I'm a nostalgia kind of person. But anyway, this church has been here since 1964. Like I say, the first services were held here, and if I'm not mistaken, it was October of 1964. So next year will be the 60th anniversary of the church. I can't wait to see the rest of this get built. I'll go into more detail about a lot about the church and when I do my video on my grandfather. His will probably be the longest video of any of my ancestors, mainly because I know more about him and his wife, my grandmother Eva, than I do any other members of my family, short of my brothers and sisters and my mother and my father. But Anyway, I thought I would come out here today and do a little short video on the church. I went last Saturday out to Lusty. They had their reenactment out at Lusty last weekend. So I went out there Saturday to film the reenactment, and I done about 5 or 6 hours worth of video out there, and I was going to cut it up into, I don't know, several segments, 8 or 10 probably, short segments. And I went out there and spent all day doing the videoing, and when I got back to download everything off the SD card, when I pulled it out of the camera, it had cracked and broken. So I lost all the video that I shot last weekend at Lusty. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe next week I'm going to ride back up to Lusty, and it won't be the reenactment, but I will go over the battlefield and all that kind of stuff. And actually next year when they do it, it'll be the 160th anniversary. So maybe it's just as well that happened, and I'll film the 160th anniversary of Lusty. So anyway, like I say, from Believer's Joy Worship Center out here on the north side of Jacksonville, as usual, I want to say I appreciate you looking at my videos. Like and subscribe. Comment if you'd like to. And as always, thank you. Appreciate you. God bless you, and y'all have a great day.